Hello! I thought today I would talk about some of the more basic, fundamental early game build orders of Total Annihilation. For some of the more grizzled veterans of this galactic war, a lot of this might be old news, but if there are any new players watching this, then I thought it would be helpful just to nail down some of the most basic techniques for getting up and running. The first thing I guess is that right off spawn, you need energy first, everything costs energy. So I normally go with 2 solar collectors before I build my first metal extractor. You accumulate metal a lot slower than you do energy, so it can seem like you just hose out the energy, but as you can see, things are sort of trucking along pretty well. This is a pretty easy, pretty simple, easy to remember formation for starting out. The only thing that I'm going to really talk about that's any different to this basic format is one particular mayhem unit. And once we'll let a little metal to bank up here for a second, and we'll get a construction bot out. So the commander can build this guy called a radical. He is worth 600 metal, which I know that's expensive, but as a short-range plasma battery built by the commander, you sort of really can't go wrong with a unit like that. So my first construction vehicle is out. He can get back on econ. My commander can do something a little more interesting. I shouldn't really be in much trouble, as long as this ratio is kept up, and I won't lose metal in a hurry. The commander does build more quickly than any other unit in the game, but since everything costs the same amount no matter who builds it, having the commander build stuff does put a bigger strain on your economy. So now we're all sort of set up here. I've got some basic economy. I could probably do with another solar plant, but instead of buying a regular one like these 3, this unit, the construction vehicle, can build these in Mayhem. The pop-up solar collector produces more energy than the standard setup. And you could even, early on, if you just want to be producing construction, like if it's a bigger map to play on, then you can just build a bunch of construction bots, basically, and have them set things up like Dragon's Teeth in a line like that. And that way he'll walk up and down and just build this line of Dragon's Teeth right here, and then when he's done, can come back and shield us off at the top there. So now this is built, this produces 75, these guys only produce 25, so the extra 50 takes a little extra time to build, but well worth it. And then defenders. So this little radical guy here, on his own, will hold off an early rush pretty well. He'll take some kills before he's finally put to sleep. The radar tower helps as well, allowing the radical, or any tower for that matter, to target things beyond their line of sight as long as it is in range. And you can check what range your towers have by hitting A for attack while the unit's selected. Move your cursor out and you can see where, right there, see where the cursor changes to an X? That is the maximum firing range of this little guy. And because the commander can build these, and the commander is a pretty lethal unit anyway, we can build a bunch of them. So, there's defenders going up, there's Dragon's Teeth going down. I'm at max resources here. This whole time I could have been pumping out flash tanks, or maybe Samson's. These Janus, the rocket tank here. Very, very cool. Worth building as well. And I'm just going to have a little bit of fun before we move on to the next thing. So, Darkside is a pretty abundant map, and small too. Not cramped though, a little more spacious than, say, Sherwood. But it is abundant. There's lots of metal lying around, plenty of it in the middle to fight over. I thought it would be helpful to cover a map that's not like that in any way. Painted Desert, a favourite that a lot of us have played before in the past that is, well, it's one of my favourites too. It's big, it's open, great for tank fights. Problem is though, it's scarce. There's not much metal to be picked up, which does become a fairly serious choke point. So I thought I'd talk about some ways that you can handle a map like this without blowing out your resources too much. Since metal isn't really something that you can waste, establishing boundaries with Dragon's Teeth isn't really something you can do in the early game. But there is something else that we can use, and that is small, lightweight armies set to patrol routes all around the map. We can set up little outposts, I guess you'd call them, sort of further down in the map, and sort of start establishing some patrol highways for some of these units. So the main mechanic to keep up here is that you do not want your resources to stall, to empty out. There is a tick rate in Total Annihilation that we need to be keeping on top of in order to last. Which means that we sort of keep moving around the map with our construction, micromanage them as best as we can, and pick up the rocks as we go. That way that we've always got metal, and we've always got, and hopefully we can have a constant stream of units. Speaking of, the key to having a fast and cheap military here is by choosing units that are effective, do the damage, and are also very, very cheap to produce. So I've gone just with K-bots for this start, as I send them around, and the mega map helps here. Painted Desert's really quite large, so being able to see the whole map like that at any one time is a massive bonus. I'll just produce some basic stuff. Remember that you can set patrol routes by clicking the lab, hitting M to make sure that the move is down, clicking, then you hold in Shift and P, and then you click as many more times as you want, and then your units will cross each checkpoint on their patrol route. And that's really it. Keep on top of your metal. Make sure you don't run out of any of your resources. Cover land as much as you can too. Try and keep units patrolling sort of all the time, and as far and as wide as you can. You need that intel on where your enemy is, what they're doing, and what their movements might be. It can be tricky to keep track of sort of what's going on, like where your construction units are. So it's helpful to establish some squads, and remember that you can always check the hotkeys for information about how to be selecting to and from construction units and different unit types and all of that. Here's one that you can use. Control Z will select all units of a specific type. So this little storm here just been produced. I've got storms and AK selected. If I hit Control Z, there they are. It'll add to the currently selected group. So we're already establishing ourselves sort of a good distance around this map. And now that we've got some space, and now that we've got a couple little units, might even venture out and get myself another lab. It shouldn't hurt us too much. See, I am losing metal quite quickly, but remember, we have construction bots for this type of thing. We're not ahead enough yet to be able to sort of set up our outposts and start going for some of that earlier map control. But we certainly can build ourselves some cheap little units. Let's see, the weasels, good for scouting. I found that they're a bit too cheap and not quite strong enough, but having a couple around just for a sort of tip of the spear type of unit. The last thing I'll show you today is how to handle yourself on a metal map when you have all of the abundance in the world and metal and energy turns into a no object pretty quickly. I won't explain what I'm doing this time. This will show you more how to just rush the game, basically, how to produce units and go absolutely nuts. So enjoy, have fun, talk to you guys soon.